The Centaurworld season finale was surprisingly straightforward about what will be happening in future seasons. Yet the final few scenes raised some highly controversial questions that influence the flow of the whole story. And by the end of this video, you will have a detailed overview of what season 2 of Centaurworld could be revealing. The baseline is human world and Centaurworld are connected again, like they once were before. The King survived and fled to human world, where the minotaurs are, along with the scepter, which is also known as the key. In short, war is coming. The Nowhere King is shown to be the leader of the Minotaurs, so the war will be Nowhere King and Minotaurs versus humans and Centaurs. This constellation reminds us of Bertor's mural that depicts exactly what will be happening in Season 2. Bertor explained that the mural is a record of past events, but we know that it also shows the future. I believe the mural is supposed to draw awareness to the phenomenon that history often repeats itself. So let's investigate this universe's past to find out what we can expect in the future. Undoubtedly, the biggest mystery is the Nowhere King's origin and his connection to the woman. So far, it is confirmed that the woman somehow created the Nowhere King and that she is emotionally attached to him. He told her, "You made me what I am, but I forgive you." What unmistakably indicates the two of them knew each other before the Nowhere King became the ultimate evil. What only happened because the woman wronged him in some way. In addition, we know that the last war was at most like 50 years ago, since wammawink experienced it as a child and the human woman apparently was involved in it too. Taking all the known pieces of information together, we can create the following story. In the past, when the worlds were still united, Minotaurs were at war with Centaurs and humans. When the situation turned out hopeless and everyone was on the brink of being eradicated, one brave rider stepped forward with a bold idea to separate the worlds in order to steal the enemy away in one of them. But she was and still is somewhat of a cold person that is willing to risk a lot for the greater good, which is why she sacrificed the allied centaurs, or maybe was forced to by other humans, and trapped them in what would become Centaurworld, along with the Minotaurs. In doing so, she left behind her former best friend, a centaur, or maybe the animal she rode before, and she didn't come back for them, not wanting to risk another invasion. Deeply hurt by her betrayal and being forced to stay in Centaurworld, the best friend slowly turned into an evil magical being, now known as the Nowhere King. He underwent a change similar to how Horse became magical throughout the show, except the process was influenced by feelings of disappointment and hatred. The Nowhere King began wanting to destroy everything and allied with his former enemies. Only some years later, the woman decided to come back to Centaurworld. The season finale proved that she tends to make harsh decisions before going back on them at a later point. Unlike in the present time though, back then her change of mind was way too late, as the Nowhere King had already become what he is today. Upon the opening of the portal, the king and his Minotaur army invaded the human world. The woman took it onto herself to lure the Nowhere King back through the portal and proceeded to trap him between the realms. This time around, she was leaving the humans to deal with the Minotaurs on their own, and conceivably she was okay with that, assuming that the other humans really did force her to betray her friends in the past. On top of that, she left a piece of the key in the human world, aiming to make sure that the portals could never be opened again. Admittedly, the whole story sounds a bit complex, with all the back and forth, but it's in fact necessary to fulfill the conditions set by the current situation. Using the story we just laid out, it is accounted for that both worlds were each invaded at one point, that the woman is in Centaurworld, and that a piece of the key was in the human world until recently. The last aspect brings us to another very important topic. topic, the General. During the first few minutes of episode 1, we already learned that the General believes the so-called artifact is the only way for humanity to defeat the enemy. Could he be in the know about the artifact being part of a key? If so, then he likely knows all about the portal, about Centaurworld, and about the past. Imaginably, he even fought in the first war and shares a strong connection to the woman. Well, up to now, the General appeared to be an ally, but we can't be entirely sure about that anymore. Given that he knows what the artifact can do, the two options he may have planned to use it for were either opening a portal to re-establish contact to centaurs, or opening the portal to send minotaurs back to Centaurworld. Staying with the idea of history repeating itself over and over again, the latter is quite plausible. Over and above that, if the General doesn't want to ally with the centaurs, he could abuse his power over Ryder to make her betray Horse in a similar fashion humans urged the woman to do so in the past. Ultimately, Centaurworld could be a story of friendship overcoming a cycle of hate. However, every cycle has its beginning, and in this case we want to know what started the original war. An explanation can be found in another mural. Season 1's final shots show the Nowhere King entering a throne room in the human world, and he sits down in front of a mural illustrating the peaceful past characterized by the close relation between humans and centaurs. But minotaurs seemingly weren't a part of the amicable alliances. They had probably always been discriminated against. Just think about it. Not just in the show, but already in original Greek mythology. Centaurs are creatures with the lower body of a horse and the upper body of a human, while minotaurs have the lower body of a human and the upper body of a bull. Minotaurs have always been portrayed as monsters. In short, what caused the minotaurs to become violent might have been the other species' racism. Besides, assuming the minotaurs are in fact less intelligent than the other species provides an answer to the question how the Nowhere King managed to quickly rise to the ranks of their leader. For updates on Centaurworld and lots of other high quality cartoon content, subscribe to Frogtunes. See you next time.